Shalom and welcome to another in our series of podcasts from Temple Beth Am, a dynamic center for conservative Judaism in Los Angeles. This is a recording of Parenting Through the Parsha with Rabbi Matt Shapiro.
We are now officially in high school search mode in our home. Our 8th grader is moving through the year, and we're looking around at different opportunities for where he'll be going to school next year. And it's interesting both within our own home and as we talk with friends, families with friends, kids who he's friends with, to be considering what we hope for these next steps in our kids' lives. And seeing within that as well, the ways in which different parents and different families hold expectations for their kids. We try to cultivate a home in which we're meeting our kids where they're at and providing them according to that station in their lives, while mindfully encouraging them into what they might next move into. And different families handle things differently. And some parents push their kids a little more, and some parents are maybe even more relaxed than us, right? Everybody handles that a little bit differently. But beyond the academic achievement and the extracurriculars and those different pieces, there's always an extent to which we as parents hold expectations for our kids. The things we hope that they will do, the things that we hope they won't do. Whatever it is, there is always going to be a certain concept for what we hope our kids are going to have unfold in their lives. I think that's natural. And I also think that's something that's important to be careful about and mindful of. We're starting to read the Torah over again this week with Parshat Breishit and the book of Breishit, the Torah portion of Genesis and the book of Genesis. And even though we're in Parshat Breishit, I want to talk about Noah a little bit, because in this Parsha, we learn an interesting wrinkle about Noah that I had never really learned before. There's certainly a creative aspect within thinking about Noah. After all, one of the ultimate creative things any one of us can do is to have kids and to raise kids. And within the beginning of the narrative that we hear about Noah, we're actually told very explicitly by the Torah about why Noah is given this name, why Noah is given his name. That we're told it's because his father Lamech gives him this name. And we're told that Lamech says, Ze Yenachamenu, Mima'asenu u'mitzvon yadenu. This one will, it's translated here as will provide us relief from our work, from the toil of our hands. What's Noah's job? He's going to make it easier. He's going to make it so that people don't have to work as hard as they do, that there's a sense that within this story, the land was cursed when Adam and Eve were kicked out of the garden. And so Noah is therefore the one who's going to finally bring some relief. And the rabbis pull this in a couple of different directions, because this word of Noah, it seems like it might be connected to lanuach, to rest. Some also point out that it's connected to michum, to comfort. There's a midrashic strain that talks about how Noah was in some ways the founder of agriculture in a certain sense, based on this verse, that he really helped to develop and bring forth the way in which we cultivate plants, that was something that Noah did. So whether it's one or more of all of those different things, that's a lot for a little kid to be carrying as soon as he is brought into this world. There are ways in which, of course, Noah is essential to the world sustaining as it did. He brings everybody into the ark. Spoiler alert, he makes it possible for his family and for the animals to survive the flood. But it's still a lot of pressure on him. And it's possible as well to refract these different understandings of his name into seeing how this became a real challenge for him. As soon as Noah gets off the ark next week, he plants a vineyard and he becomes drunk. It's a pretty sordid episode with one of his sons that unfolds from there. That, yes, he's a master of the land, but to what end are those gifts being deployed? Whether we find direct fault with Noah in terms of his actions or not, it's not necessarily used for good. And I noticed something interesting about this particular verse as well, that when it says, U'mi'itzvon yadenu min ha'adama asher ara Adonai, that this one will provide us relief from our work, from the toil of our hands, out of the soil which God placed under a curse, that's what Noah's going to do. That phrase, min ha'adama, he's lifting us from out of the ground. There's almost an interesting linguistic irony there. He's pulling us out from the ground, yeah, because Noah's literally above the ground in the water during the flood. So it's almost a case of, kind of be careful what you wish for in a certain regard. The expectations that we hold for our kids can certainly have a positive impact as we're guiding our kids towards values and principles and way of life that we consider to be important and essential. And if we're putting a lot of pressure on our kids, it can have some negative unintended consequences, whether in terms of what we knowingly or unknowingly invoke for them, or the pressure that we put on them in terms of what they should do. Those expectations really matter. And those expectations are often manifested in the names, like we see here, the names we give our kids. And that's particularly poignant for me this week because our oldest, our 8th grader, his name is Jonah, Hebrew Yonah. And of course, again, spoiler alert for next week, that dove, that Yonah, is what helps let Noah know that the flood is over and it's safe to come out. Again, no pressure on just one kid, that kind of a thematic sense. We're always going to have these hope for our kids. We're always going to have our expectations to a certain extent for who they're going to be in the world. But I think the challenge to consider here, the invitation here, is to hold that lightly, to stay open to who our kids are, not just who we want them to be or who we think that they should be, because that ultimately provides some relief for everyone involved. It provides some relief to them that they can be their authentic selves and not just who we want and hope they will turn out to be, but also some relief for us as parents as well. We don't have to worry about being overly beholden to this certain vision of who this person should be, that we can take a step back and let them flower into the person that they're going to grow into. And ultimately, if we can do that, if I can do that and stay open to that unfolding, I think that that's a really beautiful way of conceptualizing, yes, holding those expectations, but holding them lightly and thinking about the sense that, to a certain extent as well, hopefully that can bring all of us a sense of some noach, of some relief, and maybe even some comfort as well.
You have been listening to another in our series of podcasts from Temple Beth Am, a dynamic center for conservative Judaism in Los Angeles. If you enjoy these podcasts, we invite you to write a review on the Apple Podcast site or wherever you get your podcasts. For more information about Temple Beth Am Los Angeles, go to tbala.org.